Who else wants to become completely immune against any type of magical or psychic attack thrown at you? How many times have you uttered the words, "I'm cursed," after a run of bad luck? Well, after reading about this terrifying true life case of killer true life curses, you won't be saying those words so lightly. A curse is said to be a supernatural influence that can cause woe and misfortune to the victim. Typically, this comes in the form of a cursed object or powder or mark left on the target's property, wherein the owner of the object or those connected to it will befall a dire fate. A hex is sent to the victim via ritual and spell or spoken at the target, invoking forces and demonic spirits even to enter a person's mind and thoughts and crack the auric shield, making one susceptible to harmful energies and cutting them off from positive and abundance energies, and sometimes causing loss of life in a torture-like manner. If you don't believe in curses, perhaps this strange and bizarre case of Christopher and his unexplained death will be enough to give even the most hardened skeptics out there pause for thought. Now, Christopher Case was terrified, but had someone really put a curse on him? Watch this shocking short documentary and see what happened to Christopher's life. His is only one of several thousands of cases that occur each year across the USA. Common symptoms you may have experienced that possibly indicate someone has been targeting you with magical attacks are unable to focus, feelings of depression, thoughts of hopelessness, good relationships suddenly breaking apart, your finances start to become interfered with and you plunge into debt, loss of job, inability to sleep, inability to go forward with anything, opportunities disappear, more obstacles appear in your life, often serious. Something keeps holding you down. Health is affected or far worse. But what if I told you that there is a bulletproof system of magic that can eliminate any magical attack, curse, or hex thrown at you, and that you can secure your personal life, loved ones, and career from ever being tampered with now or in the future? That will give you peace of mind, shield you from negative energy, stop, eliminate, and reverse curses, hexes, and magical attacks of any kind, raise your overall magical abilities to higher levels, and attract positive and beneficial energies to you. This is why I wholeheartedly recommend this course of effective magic for you to consider. Consider this as probably the very best magical insurance policy protecting your life and lifestyle. In an age where envy, jealousy, and downright nasty acts of hate, violence, and vengeance are leveled at ordinary good folk like you and I, we can never allow ourselves to be open targets, and your success, opportunities, and blessings won't ever be curbed or deliberately shut down through some evil and very harmful magical attacks upon you that you may not even be aware of. When it comes to making sure your life hasn't been sabotaged or tampered with magically in any way, many magicians simply are caught off guard. Remove all hexes, curses, and cross conditions, and prevent them from affecting you ever again. Curses, hexes, and cross conditions can literally stunt your ability to live a happy and successful life. Act now. Now watch this true life short documentary about the curse that killed Christopher, then click the link to learn more.
While soft religious music filled the rooms of his apartment, he lit the candles. Then, in the safety of his empty bathtub, he lay back to wait out the night. Christopher Case was 35 years old, an average, intelligent man, an executive programmer with the Magick company, which provides the soft music that plays in elevators all over the world. He was single. He had good friends at Magick's headquarters in Seattle, Washington, and back home where he grew up in Richmond, Virginia. Case was healthy to the extreme, a fitness zealot who took daily vitamins and looked after his body.
That was the coasters.
The worst anyone could say about him was that he was sometimes a bit of a loner. He'd been a disc jockey back home, and often he'd prefer to listen to his favourite music than socialise at night. One of the reporters who covered the story was Louis Corselletti of the Seattle Times.
What intrigued me was the fact that, from everything I knew, from what I'd been told about him, he was a pretty level-headed guy.
You are in your car, listening to...
A good friend from his DJ days in Richmond, Sammy Sauter, is still in shock at what happened.
One of the reasons I get emotional about it is because he was my friend and I love him, and I didn't like the way he died.
Case would travel around the US and the world with his job, so he didn't date much. But women liked him. The kind of guy you could rely on. Everybody's friend. Nobody who knew him can understand the week in the summer of 1991 that ended in such tragedy. Case had gone to San Francisco on a business trip that week. A male business friend, he told Sammy, had introduced him to a woman who was importing rare music from Egypt.
She had some information on ancient Egyptian music, and of course music was his life, so he was very interested in that.
But Case would later say there was something strange about the dark-haired woman. She had a special intensity about her. It was obvious to Case that she wanted to start a relationship with him.
She was older than he was, and she was enamored of him. And he didn't like that. He had no interest in her whatsoever other than the music.
Egyptian music has always fascinated me.
It's passionate.
The second time they met to continue discussing the Egyptian music was in a restaurant.
Look at me. Take me home. Tonight.
This time, the woman came on even stronger.
Now.
Case pulled away.
Look, why don't we just leave, all right?
Take me home.
Look, you're really scaring me.
His withdrawal seemed to anger her. Then she said something strange.
You will be sorry. I'm a witch.
She told him she was a witch, and that she was going to put a curse on
I'll
her.
curse on you.
Case returned home, and for a time dismissed the incident, the way anyone would. He spoke to Sammy without undue alarm.
And he said, this lady that I met said she's a witch. And I said, baby, just bless her and go on about your business, you know.
This was the first of 3 calls. They would become progressively worse, until the night of Wednesday, April 17th, when he would lay out the final scene of his life. It had been less than a week since his meeting with the woman who described herself as a witch. By his own account, in messages left on Sammy Sauter's answering machine, he had not heard from her again.
I am a witch.
Yet the curse she put on him had started to play on his mind.
And it was horrible. I wish there was some way that people could hear what I heard in his voice and what he said. It was a living hell. It's my understanding that these attacks occurred at night on him. And he would try to sleep, but he had gotten to the point that he was not sleeping.
On Tuesday, Case visited a religious bookstore called Evangel Incorporated, not far from his home. The store manager, Rodney Higuchi, took particular notice of Case.
He came in, asked where the crosses were, and I saw him collect quite a few in his hands. So I asked him what he was going to be using them for, and he mentioned at that time that he was battling some supernatural forces, and he wanted them for protection. He wanted to know if they had been blessed with holy water.
I just don't know what to do now. I can't sleep.
This was also the day Sammy received her second call from her friend.
It's like they're putting the thoughts in my head before I can even think them.
He said they've attacked me in the middle of the night. And he said he had small cuts on his fingers. And he was very, very afraid.
I'm in trouble, Sammy. I'm in deep trouble.
Between his religious purchases and his calls, Christopher Case had begun a ritualistic fight back against the curse he believed was upon him. He scattered the crosses and crucifixes through his apartment, wrote notes on methods of combating evil spirits, and spread salt in the corners of each room. His health began to suffer. He hadn't shown up for work in 2 days. He told worried friends about the curse he believed was taking hold of him. It was this night he became so scared he left his apartment and checked into a nearby hotel.
I started calling him about 3:30 my time. And I couldn't get an answer. And that concerned me because he was very, very frightened.
The forces that would lead him to his final ritual of desperation had clearly changed Christopher Case from the normal man everybody knew and liked. Sometime Wednesday, he had gone back to his apartment. He scribbled more notes on rituals for fighting the curse. He spread more salt, not only along the extremities of every room, but in large piles in each corner. By the time the religious store owner Higuchi saw him on Wednesday, Case was a different person.
When he first came in, he wasn't very agitated, and so I thought, well, this is a significant concern for him, but nothing looked out of the ordinary. When he came in the second time, and he looked very exhausted and worn out, then I realized it was affecting him more than just mentally. I mean, it was a physical thing he was going through.
When I talked with him on Wednesday morning, my feeling was he was ready to die. Because he said to me, he said, you know, I can die from this.
Shortly after 8 o'clock Wednesday night, Sammy Sauder called the Seattle police with grave concern. Case had not answered his phone all day. Homicide detective Larry Peterson.
King County Police had received information initially to make a welfare check at the house. They had made a welfare check on one particular day, I believe the 17th of April, and found the house to be secured.
2 police officers went to his apartment door but did not enter.
The outside of the apartment had a poured line of salt on the ground running from the front door to the rear of his apartment.
Neighbors told them Case was a private man and his front door was locked. They decided not to break in.
Return to our Heavenly Father and pray to Him.
Sometime that afternoon, Case had gone to a priest in desperation. Father James Mallahan was disturbed by his condition.
He could feel this malignant power influencing his body, and he was scared to death that it was going to kill him.
And when Sammy Sauder got home that night, the last words Christopher Case ever spoke were on her answering machine.
Hi, Sammy. This is Christopher. Well, they just about got me.
Medical experts say the apparent calmness of Case's voice is the most chilling aspect. The total acceptance of his fate. Final submission.
You know, they are trying to kill me. So whatever it is I do to defend myself doesn't work anymore. This is what it's coming down to. I'm not looking forward to tonight. It's serious. It's very serious. It's my life.
All the next day, the 18th of April, Case's phone rang and rang. Sammy's phone calls went unanswered.
After receiving a call from dispatch, I made a welfare check on Case.
The police arrived to check on Christopher Case at 3:38 Thursday afternoon. The apartment was a mess. Scribbled notes littered the living room. More salt had been spread along the floors.
I heard soft religious music playing on the radio from the living room.
A flicker of light came through the bathroom doorway. As the officers entered, they came across the final frozen moment of Christopher Case's life. The candles had burned down. He was kneeling in prayer.
I saw the victim slumped over on his knees with his head resting on the edge of the tub, left of the faucet against the wall.
A trickle of cold water ran from the tap. He was still wearing his glasses. He had died sometime during the night. The Seattle coroner officially ruled his cause of death as cardiac arrest. But the people who knew him and spoke to him that final week believe there is more to say.
I firmly believe that he died of fright.
My guess is that he was scared to death, literally.
Whether Christopher Case was cursed or merely believed he was cursed, that week in the summer of '91, something or someone drained him of his life.